So today was the epic day. The Federal Reserve announcement, they raised by 25 basis points. That's exactly what I told you guys would happen. They basically said that they were done raising. At least that's the vibe that they put out there. Now, most people would say, okay, that's very, very bullish, right? And the markets initially, Bitcoin initially responded with a big up move. Here you can clearly see on the daily Bitcoin chart, we popped north of this trend line. We pierced it. We've finally actually pierced it. If you look at all these other days, we just kind of came underneath the underbelly. Today we pierced it, hitting a high of 28,936. We then fell back down and reversed. Why did we reverse? Because yes, they said they're going to pause, which by the way, that's exactly what I said that they were going to do. Raise 25 and then essentially say they're going to pause. But the kicker was Jerome Powell stressed he is not going to be lowering rates this year into next year. The market has priced in that he would be lowering. So now you have a disparity where even with him pausing, the markets were still expecting more dovishness. And that's where you get the sell-off here. So again, we see Bitcoin falling to the downside, trading at 27,500. Again, that puts us almost $1,000 in the money on our Bitcoin short. If we go to the Ethereum chart real quick, which is the other short, we're just out of the money ever so slightly by about 30, 35 bucks on that or so. All right, notice again the channel that Ethereum has still held this entire time. Pivot point, pivot point, pivot point, pivot point here, and again is backing off. Now again, going back to the Bitcoin chart, again, if there's one level that you focus on, that you recognize as being the biggest level of all, this area is it. So this line from about 28,500 up to about 30,200. This is the level that, again, to me, this is everything for Bitcoin. This is either the place where it stops and it starts heading back down and making new lows eventually, or it's the point where it pushes through and we now say that we now have a likely bottom on Bitcoin at the 15.7 line. All right, so again, this is huge. And again, no, it's not a surprise to me that today's price action made that determination of actually popping and then reversing, right? We knew it was at a pivotal line, and again, beautiful pop and then reversal here, now trading 27,354, so it's starting to come back down. We're not at the lows of the session yet. If we go to the intraday, by the way, look at all this action here. Here's your initial pop, and then your rollover and collapse, and again, we are just a little bit off of the lows of the day on the 10-minute chart. All right, so now let's talk about downside. If we start to pull back, your first level of support to me is going to be right in here. This is just a minor level. Well, it's medium. We'll call it a medium level, and that's at 25,000, which makes sense. Even number, 25,000, former pivot high right here. That now is your support level. If that breaks, you'll have a little bit more support around 23,800. Following that, your major level is this upsloping trend line, followed by your double bottom down here. These are your two, 1, 2, those are your major technical levels. Okay, so again, let's keep an eye on how things are going here, but bottom line is the Federal Reserve raising by 25 basis points, throwing the market an initial bone, basically talking about no more rate hikes in the near term here, but then also reiterating don't expect rates to come down, which is where the market got into an uneasy situation, and we did see some pretty hefty selling. All right, so that's where we are on that chart. Again, we already went over the Ethereum chart. Ethereum, again, pulling back a little bit today, still staying within that mode. Ethereum, again, has a little bit of support right in this range. You can see these lows actually match this high right here, right, in this area here. So it makes sense why it's kind of been hammering on that. If that breaks, you'll have minor support at 1660, minor support at 1570, and then the big support is the low end of the channel right here around 14 and a quarter, 1425. All right, let's keep going here, guys, as again, I am keeping an eye on the overall markets, including crypto. The stock market obviously has been a little crazy too. By the way, you want to see some crazy action in the stock market, take a look at the 10-minute chart here. Look at the volatility here on the Fed. And again, initially we had this great rally on the back of the Fed statement, and then look at the reversal that we've seen. And again, I'm curious to see where we close. This is going to be a key level down here, 393 on the spiders. Again, I know this isn't a S&P, stock video, but nonetheless, in these particular days, I do find it useful to kind of talk about the different levels. All right, let's look at some of the other cryptocurrencies here. Matic is coming in a little bit. Again, yesterday was up. Today we're right back down. There's still not a lot of price action here. Remember, the alts, aside from Ethereum, and obviously Bitcoin's not an alt, but those didn't see the rally. The Solanas, the Avalanches, they bounced, but they didn't see the rally that the Ethereums and the Bitcoin saw. And so it makes sense that they're not going to see the massive selling necessarily. They'll still come in, but probably not see the massive selling that we saw or we could be seeing in some of the other cryptos, the Bitcoins and Ethereums. All right, a couple other things to go over here, guys. So that's your Matic chart. Let's look at Solana real quick. We'll look at Cardano in a second. Solana is coming back in. Solana support is going to be right down here. This area is going to be your support on Solana. I don't see any trades on that front yet. Let's take a look at Cardano. Cardano had that awesome pop yesterday, but look at where it went, right into this cross section, retraced right to that trend line. Look at that. Do you guys remember my lesson? My lesson, it's a very basic lesson. Basically, the lesson is as follows. It's that when you have converging trend lines, meaning two trend lines that come together and price goes into it, that is going to be the biggest, best level you're going to get. And so in this situation, upsloping trend line, downsloping trend line here. Converging, price goes right into it, gets rejected. That's exactly technical analysis 101 right there. All right, where again could Cardano come down to? Down to this line. I mean, you'll have a little bit of support here, but ultimately down to this line is probably expectation. Take a look at Polkadot. Polkadot, same thing, a little bit of a rollover. No support until this lower area here. Avalanche, real quick. Avalanche, again, holding steady, a little bit of a down move. But again, for the most part, the only charts that are getting my attention, again, are your Bitcoin and Ethereum. Those are the ones that, again, saw the big pops, and now they're seeing reversals today off of very, very, very important levels. Let me just quickly check BNB. BNB was up into this level and then has rolled over today. Support is going to be this downsloping trend line, which is right around 300. We'll see again if it gets into that level. Really fascinating price action, I got to say, folks. It is amazing to watch this price action here off of this Fed statement. Tomorrow will be very interesting after the market has a chance to digest. The dollar had a huge rollover. Now, this is really interesting, right? Because the dollar collapsed. Usually that's good for risk assets like Bitcoin as well as stocks. Yet we've seen a rollover on stocks. We've seen a rollover on Bitcoin. So kind of interesting price action here. The one thing I'll point out is you do have good support here on the dollar. So the dollar's piercing support. You might get a little bit of a bounce on the dollar over the next couple days. Let's just go over quickly the 10-year chart, 10-year yield. 10-year yield, again, dropping today. We have very clear support on this line. We're still well above it on the daily chart. You have resistance up in this range. Not the best resistance now, but nonetheless, you have that line. It did break out, and then it failed. And by the way, this is another great educational lesson. Listen up. When you break above a resistance line, which happened, basically you confirmed right here. Okay, so you closed above, you didn't confirm. You closed above, you didn't confirm. You basically confirmed right here. When it fails, and what you had here was a down move, bear flag, and it failed, failures of breakouts, confirmed breakouts, result in big moves in the opposite direction. So again, anytime a breakout or breakdown fails, usually you get a big move in the opposite direction. In this case, look at the size of that move to the downside on yields. So that's just a little tidbit to keep in mind for future trading experiences. All right. On that note, I'm going to get going, guys. Thank you, as always, for being members. I will keep you posted. Right now, looking good on the Bitcoin short. I honestly wouldn't have minded adding a little bit if we popped up to 30,000, but I guess it just means that in case we do rally up, which is always a possibility, and we do get to 30, we have some fuel in the tank to still short more there. Let's rock and roll. You guys take care.